Warning, this video may contain spoilers for the TV show or movie that we discuss in this video. If you have not yet watched the TV show or movie that this video is about, please come back to the video at a later time after you have watched the content that was discussed. You have been warned.
Rising with each beat of the music is bringing real flames in the fire that keeps burning. We're inviting the night in.
Tactical nuke incoming!
How's it going, everybody? This is Rob of Novakast back with another review for everybody. In this one, oh my gosh, we're going to be talking about Final Space, or at least some more of Final Space. And actually going further than that, Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. For some of the videos, I'm going to try to do a couple more episodes at a time, so that way we can kind of go through this a little bit faster. Plus, when it comes to my initial episode reviews, especially with like really short shows, or at least their episodes, they're relatively short. So, to an extent, to try to extend the watch time, or at least the discussion anyway, when it comes down to the video itself, I'll be doing a couple of videos or a couple episodes each video. So, without further delay, this video is going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2. Starting us off, it's kind of starts right, at least for episode 1 anyway. It kind of starts where the last one left off, where Gary was floating in space. At this point, we're kind of wondering whether or not he's dead. At the end of like season 1, there was like kind of a glimmer of hope where this light shines on Gary, and turns out that it was some kind of tractor beam or something that sucks him into, I'm assuming, like a garbage truck ship. I'm assuming like a garbage ship or garbage disposal ship, where it's like going, like sorting out valuables and crap. Like it literally like when it puts Gary through the scanner, it literally calls him just crap and tosses him into garbage, where Gary, wakes up, who again we presumed was dead, but turns out he wasn't. He still has a lot of life in him. So what ends up happening is, he wakes up, gets to the bridge of this ship, and is at this point kind of like hurting at the fact that he lost or failed to save the Earth. But hope is not all lost, considering that Hugh, who also survived, is not only out of his helmet, but also in a brand new spanking body. So, neat. After that, or after the somewhat touching reunion, they lightfold into this planet where Clarence, the creepy alien that sold Gary the alien skin from the first season, shows up and claims Gary and Hugh as property. And it turns out that somebody else also survived, that being Little Kato, which we have a touching reunion with that. But it is ruined when we find out that Kevin also survived. The bane of Gary's existence, Kevin, also lives. And we get introduced to a couple of other aliens who I guess were adopted by Clarence. One of them, I believe, was named Rex. This big, freaking, hulking character who, I'm not going to lie, kind of reminds me of Barrett from Final Fantasy. I'm just saying that because of, the initial design of him kind of reminds me of Barrett. And we get a female alien by the name of Ash, who apparently has an ability to move objects and kind of be very mysterious. I'm kind of curious if they're going to go with something for that character. I don't know. But who knows? Who knows down the line? But either way. So Clarence ends up capturing Hugh, Little Kato, and Gary. And after several attempts of them trying to escape, they end up making a deal with, well, Clarence. Clarence offers them freedom if they proceed to steal a object for them. And the only way that it can be obtained is during this race that is supposed to be very, very dangerous. So not only do they get their own freedom, but they also apparently get a ship, as far as we know. But let's face it, when it comes down to this guy, or at least, Clarence, he's a little sketchy. So, yeah. So, given no choice, Gary, Locato, Hugh, and Kevin, unfortunately Kevin, end up having to take part in this race with the help of Clarence, Ash, and Rex, and proceed to try to race or combat other racers on this track, on this desert planet. To some extent, they actually do really good, and I think the ship was called the Crimson Light, which honestly it looks really badass. I'm not gonna lie, the design of it looks really nice. So they're winning, and at some point they do something actually new, where it was like, was it drop fold or drop drives? I think it was, where instead of it being like light folding or like light speed, they literally basically just full force drop down, and it was actually a really cool scene where they're dropping and they're trying to catch up to the last ship that is in this race. And sure enough, they aren't able to do it well enough, or at least Gary, who almost gets killed, he gets help with Ash, and one thing leads to another, where he basically decapitates one of the racers, who turns out, who looks like a human on the outside, turns out to be a robot. And they're able to not only get the object, but also the race, because they win. They're the last racer, and they pass through the finish line. Oh, one thing I need to mention is during these whole events, we get a couple last moments with the Lord Commander, who is, a little bit irritated that he, basically all of his dreams were dashed away, hates that he met Mooncake, and gets impaled by Nightfall. And apparently Nightfall has killed him, she mentions how she's killed him 100 different times. And every single time we get a name call by we get a name call of something called Invictus. And she basically tells the Lord Commander that when you see him, tell him we're gonna come kill you next. So I'm kind of curious about what's really going on. But the episode ends with everybody winning the race, or at least everybody kind of claiming victory. Not so much for Gary, Locato, and Hugh, because what a shock, Clarence lied. And as Clarence is about to take the cube, or this cube object thing, and it apparently activates, and they see an image of Bolo, who tasks them with a new venture. That being to not only free Bolo, but also collect 5 different keys. And apparently the object that they stole was one of these said keys. So at this point now, their new task is to free Bolo and enter final space. So I gotta say, I'm really excited for this. This show, I will say, was really good for the first season, and I'm really excited for anything that comes up later on. So with that, we're gonna continue with this. But yeah, this is really good. All right, now going further, we'll talk about episode 2, and this one was a little bit of a strange one, where everybody on, I believe the ship was called the Crimson Light, is traveling through space, and they get captured by this weird, I want to say cone-shaped ship, where they're, I guess, beamed up and introduced to, I want to say, cutesy nightmare fuel, like, literally. And turns out I'm, like, not even, like, I find out, like, as I'm watching this, that it wasn't actually a joke that I told myself, that it was cutesy nightmare fuel. Turns out, yeah, there is something going on with these guys. They're these, like, little fluffy little creatures, which I want to say are the demonic version of Muppets. I think that'd be the best way to put it, but whatever. So, anyways, they end up meeting these, I think they're called the Ruffles. I don't know. I honestly, I was too, like, busy, looking at these things and being horrified. And one of them, who I'm assuming is the leader, who is red, because the rest of them are purple, proceeds to take Gary and kind of put him in a bubble where he is, or enjoys his happy place. And we get to see some really cool, I want to say really cool and really weird shit, where Gary's happy place is him having a cabin in the middle of nowhere with buff freaking muscles and his robot arm. He still has his robot arm. And he has a cookie wife and cookie children. And in this happy place, that he ends up having to stop these bears at a dance-off. Again, it's like, what the hell's going on? Actually, thinking about that, because it just dawned on me the beginning of this episode, because, oh my gosh. It like, I'm just gonna say, it was one of those moments where it was like, what the fuck? What were the writers thinking? But then again, looking at it, it's on Adult Swim, so I kind of saw this coming. I should have seen this coming, but I should say. Where, like, at the beginning, Gary, Little Kato are trying to figure out a way to get their ship back, or reclaim, I'm using quotes, reclaim the ship, and Little Kato thinks of the only way that he could think of to reclaim the ship. And apparently, the Trexian way, or his race, the way that they claim property is by pissing on it. You heard me right. The way he claims his property, or claims the ship, is by pissing on it. And what starts off with Little Kato pissing on all over the ship ends up becoming a whole-on pissing war between all of the male characters on the ship. I am not... This goes on for a good, I want to say, minute and a half. I was just like, okay, this is messed up, but whatever. So, after that, we get to the part where they get captured and so on. Gary is in his happy place, and Nightfall is, at this point, kind of like wondering something's not right with everything going on. Turns out there is something wrong, because they look down at the bottom of the ship, and at the bottom of the ship you can see the outside into space, and apparently the body, or at least the end or bottom of the ship, is dumping waste, and that waste is dead bodies. Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies. So clearly there's something going on. Turns out, these Ruffles, or whatever the fuck they're called, they aren't as honest as they claim themselves to be, or nice as they make themselves out to be, as they proceed to try to kill our heroes. And while trying to save Gary, they come across this old guy who dies because of Kevin. Kevin's a douche. And while trying to continuing their search to find Gary, they find Tribor, which I thought was funny, especially when we get to see his happy place. it was interesting. I loved it. I actually love it, and I think I'm coming to like this character. He's kind of funny. After that, we see more of Gary's happy place, and it turns out, by the way, as somebody mentions, or at least the old guy who died because of Kevin, because again, Kevin's the douche. Turns out that they're gonna, like, the way that this is set up is this ship drains the happiness out of an individual, and basically they die when all their happiness runs out. So what ends up happening is they find Tribor, who they're all confused as why he's still alive, and it turns out Tribor has a lot of joy in life, so he's still alive. Whatever. I'm not gonna knock it. That's actually a really cool explanation, but whatever. So they end up finding Gary, who near the end of, after killing several teddy bear creatures with dancing, he comes across a giant dancing Spanish dancing knight near the end of his imagination or happy place, and it ends with, or at least his happy place ends with him, after defeating the giant, saving his cookie family, and his cookie family then being shot by the leader of the Ruffles. And it turns out, shock, that the leader Ruffle has a vendetta for Gary. Apparently, this individual had a family, and the family was on Earth when it was being pulled into final space. So this guy lost his family, and during him losing his family, he caught the transmission between him and Quinn. So with everything going on, or at least with all of that information, this individual, who apparently was part of the Starfleet thing that was in the first season, blames Gary for the loss of Earth and wants to kill him. They're able to escape. The ship is severely damaged, and the guy swears revenge on Gary. So, and the episode ends with everybody kind of, coming together and, showing support, because at this point Gary feels very, very responsible for the loss of Earth. So, all in all, I am really excited for this, or at least continuing this series. Next video we'll be talking about episodes 3 and 4, so I'm really excited about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you guys enjoy the longer videos where I'm talking about more episodes. I'm kind of curious, because I'm doing that with some of my other videos. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.